Hi everyone, welcome to this IPI webinar on the subject today of building agentic agents. And we focus specifically on how you do this in Genesys, as they've been releasing a lot of powerful new capabilities in this area. We'll do a walkthrough of how you build an agentic virtual agent in Genesys, but we'll also cover off some of the best practice elements that I think will be useful across different agentic platforms. Housekeeping wise, use the Q&A if you want to leave any questions, and we'll check those at the end. And I'll try and periodically check them as we go through. The meeting is being recorded, so people have got a chance to watch it back, or those that couldn't make this time, but you won't be able to see yourselves in the recording. And then just in terms of an introduction, so we're IPI. I'm Craig.
And I'm Gerard.
Thank you, Gerard. It's almost as if we rehearsed it. And IPI, we are CX and AI specialists. We're a Genesys partner. We design, build, and integrate our clients' customer platforms. And then we work with them ongoing to ensure that they succeed once they're live. So if we kind of get into the meat of the webinar now. So Gerard, what are the different options within Genesys for customer facing AI?
Yeah, so it's evolved quite a lot over recent years, and it's still evolving day to day. But if we go back to sort of the thing that people will be generally more aware of is the chat and voice bot functionality. That very robotic, back in the day, very robotic sort of structured IVR, generally for like identification, verification, providing information, those sorts of things. That was how it started, and then it moved into sort of the virtual language model agent, where it's the same sort of journeys, isolated journeys, where it's a one and done sort of, I want to update my account details, or I want to change my address, but it has a little bit more of a fluid automation journey to it, so it can do things in a structured way, but in a more humanic way than the traditional voice bot and chat bot. Then it evolved again into Agentic virtual agent, where it starts to come into its own, where it's allowing for a lot more adaptability in what it can do to complete a defined goal. And this is things such as the customer might say, I need to change my address, and then throw in a question that they may need an answer to, and it can go off and query the knowledge base and present that information back and give them sort of a little bit of a better experience, rather than, sorry, that's outside of my scope, I'm going to pass you off to an agent now.
Everyone loves that, right?
Yeah, and then now we're into that sort of agentic full virtual agent process now, where it's fully autonomous. It has that virtual experience where the agent can handle a complex or a complete CX journey as well, through a goal, using dynamic, can pivot, can adapt. It's really sort of above and beyond that sort of first stage of chatbot and voice bots, where the customer could be talking about one thing, then flip to another thing, and as long as it has the access to the information, it flips as well and goes in that different direction. So it can pivot very much like an agent would do. So from a CX perspective, they're getting that sort of everything they need to do done in one step. Now, because there is quite a lot of options available to you and all doing different little bits in there as well, it's really important to evaluate what is right for which journey, which we're going to cover as we move through there. But not everything will fit in an agentic world. Some of them would still stay in that chat and voice bots. It's not something that would just disappear. It's something that is useful in certain situations. So that leads us on to the just because you can doesn't mean you should. So
in no way copyright infringing a dinosaur-based film.
No. And this is where you could start to understand, well, what is it that we want to do and what is the right journey for it? So there are quite a lot of things that would still stay with a bot flow versus what would be good for agentic. So if we look at the agentic piece, customer queries can be complex. They may need to pivot to get the request answered and processed. The answer is reliant on multiple streams of data, not just a singular source of the data that it needs, and that it can shift mid-conversation. So if I'm talking about one thing, but also now it sparks something in my mind to talk about this, the agentic virtual agent can adapt to that as well and move forward with that as well. Meaning that the customer coming through is getting that one and done service where they come through and they're trying to get everything resolved in one touch, and the agentic virtual agent is doing that. It's a proactive, it's human-like, it's quite scary how human-like it can actually get now, versus your sort of traditional bots. And if you look at the middle diagram there now, we've got where it would generally go in the IVR. So you've got an agentic virtual agent, which is the intelligent, proactive, human-like, and available 24/7, versus a bot, which is doing that singular journey, ID&V, updates, 24/7 availability as well. You can have them working in unison. So you could have your bot doing your ID&V as it does today. You're not having to rewrite history. You have all of that done, and then pass that information to the agentic virtual agent to carry on that conversation.
And I think it's I think it's also just important to say that if you've got a successful bot that's churning through a lot of work to a high level right now, you don't need to get rid of that and replace it, right?
Yes, exactly. And it's really important that just because the agentic virtual agent is all bells and whistles, it comes at a cost. So it's not cost effective to be doing those repetitive single journey interactions through an agentic virtual agent if the demand is only capturing data and passing it forward. Use your agentic virtual agents for those journeys that need that little bit more of a process to follow, but also the adaptability to go out to knowledge, to go out to different systems and do that action, that processing in there as well. And then if we just look at the sort of the journeys, because often a lot of people will have in mind sort of, well, this is the journey we want to go down and we want it agentic, but not all the time that is the right thing to do. So we've got 3 journeys here. We've got an appointment management. If we look at this from a chatbot's perspective, the chatbot would do the booking appointment, but it will just stop there. It won't say you can reschedule, you can cancel, I can look at other appointment availability. It generally is that sort of one and done. I'll book that appointment for you. Whereas we move into the virtual agent piece, we've got then it understands the request, can retrieve the appointment details and cancel it, but it then might say, sorry, I'm as much as I can possibly do right now. I need to pass you off to an agent to do the rest of the rebooking for you. So it can help you part of the way to do that self-serve. But if you need something else, it may need to go off to an agent in there as well. Whereas the agentic virtual agent can check the availability, can check appointments, user preferences, ask all of the questions around, does this suit you? Is this location okay? Doing all of the options that are possibly available to that customer to make that decision, and then makes all the changes in the CRM all autonomously, all done without need for an agent to get involved. Now that's sort of the appointment structure. I'm going to go to password reset because this is generally where service desk industries or IT support will use this as a quick win to get their password resets done for their people. Now, in a chatbot perspective, it does the decision tree of what security questions should be asked to verify and sends them a password reset link, but it can't adapt to, well, what is the best practice that I should be using for my password, or what is the process for getting onto the VPN. All of that sort of thing is sort of restricted in the chatbot's capability. Whereas the virtual agent will understand the customer's reset, gathers the information, processes it, but it's then sort of, if anything curveball, like how do I connect to the VPN and all of that sort of good stuff that other people might be asking, it then passes that off to an agent. So it's reaching the limits of what it's able to do. Again, it's just doing that. You asked me to do a password reset. I've helped you with the password reset. The agentic virtual agent pivots. So it goes down the route of verify, resets the password, anything else I can help you with. If it has the knowledge to help and support with, or the data to support with, it will go away and provide that information. So if it's a thing like I've reset my password, it's not working, it can check the status of my password and say, oh, I can see your password was changed in the last 24 hours. Would you like me to reset it again? Or if it's VPN related, it can then go out and see, is the VPN platform actually up and running? Is it down yet? So I can relay the right information back to that person. Because if I then start to say, sorry, I can't help you with that, I might have reset my password, but now I'm resulting in a call into the contact center, which is what these virtual agents are supposed to remove, that need for contacting into the contact center.
Okay. So we've probably all seen the horror statistics around there around failure rates of AI projects or lack of benefits realization from AI projects, and probably a lot of that is partly overblown in that some of this stuff is so easy now to play with and experiment. And you'll see the Genesys one is quite easy to use as well. That people are going out there and experimenting with it and spinning something up and seeing how they get on. So there's a lot of experiments that have been taking place. But what we probably see most, or what we probably spend most of our time as a partner, is actually on the readiness side and the operationalization of the AI, rather than the configuration and the build itself. And whilst everyone's probably keen to start using this cool technology, you want to set yourself up for success, and then you want to know whether you've succeeded afterwards as well. And you can do that through these steps we've got here. So to start with, you can use some of the tools that are already within Genesys to find problems or friction or high volume use cases that you want to automate. And then you need to spend a bit of time understanding if it's right to automate. So is it a stable process? Is it well documented? Are there compliance considerations? Or maybe it's too emotive or too valuable from a human point of view for you to want to automate it. And if you don't want to automate all of it, can you automate part of it to get some benefit and save some time? And then on the third step, system readiness. So probably a big hurdle for some customers is you want to adopt this virtual agent as quickly as possible, but have you got the systems and the integrations to those systems for the agent to be able to use? Otherwise, it's not going to be able to do anything. And also, does it have the knowledge base? So do you have the knowledge articles? Are they well written? Are they up to date that the agent can pull from?
That's a really important one, because the virtual agent is only going to be as good as the knowledge it has. So having knowledge that's useful for that virtual agent to conduct conversations with customers, to also do that process part of it, it needs the knowledge, it needs the customer information to use that. So it's a really important one.
Yeah, I think when you see the kind of power and how good some of these AIs have become, it's easy to get carried away and think it can just do anything, but it needs to be grounded in tools that it can use and knowledge that it's got access to. And then you want to look at what benefit it's going to give you versus the cost or potential risk to customer experience or your brand. And you want to understand this because you want to be able to demonstrate that you've achieved it and know what was successful and why. And then you can use that to justify the next project, and you can start to get a bit of a self-funding innovation cycle. Or if not, you want to learn the lessons about why and quickly move on and use those with the next project. And then if we move on to the actual build process. So there are kind of 5 core steps that we've captured here for reference. And I'm not going to go into depth in explaining these because I think we'll probably cover off some of the best practices in these as we build it. But they're fairly common to most agentic builds. And so we will now switch back to Gerard to go through and take a look at what that looks like in practice.
Yes, so I'll just see if I can transition this screen very quickly. So we're going to look first of all at a fully built agentic virtual agent. And then what we're going to do is then go back and just have a blank slate to show you how you can best start to set this up. So this is traditional password reset. I know I contradicted before when I was saying usually you do these in a bot. However, this is just to give you a general idea of how it structures the information it needs and so on in there. So the first thing that we have is the role. And the role is the persona of the agentic virtual agent. This is something you're completely in control of. It's not just going to do whatever you want. Sorry, it is going to do whatever you want it to do. It's not going to do what it thinks is the right thing to do unless you don't give it any rules. If you give it no rules, it will go off and start saying, hallucinate and start saying random things. However, if you're training it to do what you need it to do, it's going to follow the sort of the process that you're looking for it to follow. It will do it in a natural language, so it will do it based on how it feels that is the best way to present that information at that point in the conversation, or based on what was said. But it will do it based on what you've told it to do. So in my situation, this is Mike. Mike is a service desk agent, and he supports in password resets and account issues. So he helps employees secure access to their accounts, and he's optimized for short spoken responses, sound professional, clear, and helpful. And then I've given it, this is how we would standardize how we would say our introduction. So you can say, hi, I'm Mike, your service desk virtual agent. I can reset your password or regain access to your account. Let me know how I can help. Makes it a little bit more friendly and a warm opening rather than just sort of, hi, I'm Mike, a virtual agent. I'm here to help you reset your password. And whatever you put in the quotes is the sort of the direction that it will go. If you just said, say something along the lines of, hi, Mike, I'm Mike, this is a service desk, how can I help you? It will go down the route of structuring its own little sentence for that. It keeps it, as we've put it in the above part, professional, clear, helpful. It still adheres to that, but it will change the way that it would see the opening being. So you'd have that sort of standardization by putting this in. The good thing with the agentic virtual agents versus your traditional chat and voice bots is you can create all in the same place. So you don't have to have a separate bot flow for your chat versus your voice. You can say this is a voice and this supports voice and digital interactions. So it adapts to both channels. And you're building in throughout all of the guidelines that it should follow. When it's a voice interaction, this is how you would say it. If it's a digital interaction, this is how you would say it. So it allows us to be a little bit more clearer on, right, okay, determine what type of contact you're on, and this is the direction you go down with it. What we're saying is that in this case, you must verify the user identity, complete the password reset. We don't get passwords out unless we've done it. You can do this prior to it getting to the agentic virtual agent, and that is what we would recommend. So using that, as we mentioned before, using that chatbot to do your IDMV piece, and then passing that context over to the agentic virtual agent to say, this person has passed data protection, and here is the information you may need to help with their query. And that could be your standard sort of the name, address, user IDs, payroll IDs, whatever sort of information you capture to verify that person in there before they get to this password reset piece. If they fail that DPA, we can just bypass it so they don't even come into this part. So it allows us to keep it just focused to those people who have passed security and are going to need help with this. And then the key things in there. So if you were on a voice conversation and you call in and say, I need my password reset, it would then say, this is your password, and it would read the password out, but it might not necessarily do it in that uppercase P, lowercase a. We are telling it that's how it should do it. So we need to be making sure that it's case sensitive so that there's no issues when that person receives that password. And you can make these as lengthy as you want, just to make it a little bit more, these are the do's, these are the don'ts, so that Mike knows when Mike goes and does his conversations where he's able to help and where he's not able to help in there. So we'll build that out in here as well. And then we move over to guidelines, sort of allows us to structure the conversation a little bit in there. So provides positive examples of how the agent performs their job. So the first one, and I'll show you this after I've done the first little look at this, because it's really cool on how it can adapt. But bilingual to support multiple languages. So if you've got customers who are not always native English speakers, Genesys supports other language models as well. So you've got other language models that it can pivot into. So it's not just focused on the UK language if you don't want it to be as well. We've then put in, just to reaffirm, that passwords need to be done in uppercase, lowercase, capital. But this is where we've gone into, for voice interactions, read the password slowly, clarify each character, for example, capital P, lowercase p, just making sure that we are covering all of those, even with numbers in there as well. For digital, we display the password as generated, but remind them that they're case sensitive and doesn't alter any spacing or anything like that, keeps it all as it would be, so that when the customer then takes that password away, they've got that as it's been generated. And that we never monitor modifying, simplifying, or verbalizing the passwords. Is to provide a password reset. That's what we're doing. And then we are also at the end of that message that we provided it, that they need to change their password. It's temporary, so they need to change it, and it'll be done by organizational policies. When we go down the route of never bypass any identification procedures, in here I've got some procedures in here that I will follow. If it doesn't meet that, it won't perform the password reset. It won't just go down the route of, I've captured it, let's carry on and reset the password anyway. So we need to make sure that all information is verified before we go through and do that password reset, which is a really important one, just to make sure that we're still following that structure and that compliance piece in there as well. We've also got in here sort of when Mike can't help. So when Mike's got something that is asked to him that is outside of his realm of possible outcomes that he can do, we can then have if the issue can't be resolved, so if the password doesn't resolve that customer's issue, we can escalate that through to the IT support team. So we can either do a trigger, which will create a ticket into the IT support team, or we could escalate that out via a phone call to the support team. So we can then basically pass that out into the call flow, into the team that can help further with that. Or create that ticket, let them know the ticket's created, provide them the ticket number, and say, this is the lead time for sorting that problem out for you. So you can vary which way it goes, whether it'll just do the automated process of ticket creation or pass you through to a human to help. Because we've often, as everybody probably has, gone through the realms of battling with a bot to try and get to your problem solved. I'll not go through all of these because there's a lot in there, but you're just generally creating that sort of structure of what Mike should do, how Mike should behave, how it determines what the user needs. So whether it's password reset, accounts locked out, knows the password but wants to change it, or MFA issues. Channel aware. So again, reaffirming that if you're on a voice, you're using short conversational sentences, not long strings of information back on a voice call. And if you're on digital, you can use short bullet point, quick responses, just to keep the conversation flowing rather than it being death by 1,000 words. So you're building that sort of, what do we want Mike to do? How do we want Mike to flow? What do we do if this happens or this doesn't happen in there as well? And then from here, we've also given Mike some tools. So in the tools tab, we've given Mike access to, once customer provides their employee ID in this case, we've got it for social security number in this case as well. Mike goes away and queries the CRM to say, well, who is that customer? How do I know that customer, and how do I provide them with the right information back to it? So then we've got knowledge as well. And knowledge will allow us to support with IT queries. So if anything's asked outside of that, we've then got that information to hand as well. Configuration allows us to then say, if the session ends, how do we want to sign that off? So it's within brand, and we're happy with that, and that customers can be transferred to one of the team if needs be. What message are we saying back? And then finally, the guardrails are the things that we will not tolerate. So if a customer displays a specific behavior, what do we want to do? Swearing, key one. We don't tolerate abusive behavior. If it continues, the conversation will be ended. So let's just have a quick look at it in action. I need a password reset. And then it'll ask me for my information. So I've got my employee number. For all intents and purposes, this is a fake employee number. And the same for social security number, again, fake number. And then it will go away, and it triggered the action. This is how we test it, make sure it's connected to the right place. So it's gone away and it's triggered that ID. And then it provides me with all of the information for that person. So their name, their account number, their street, all of that sort of stuff is in there. So we know we've matched the right person. And now it's provided me with a password in there as well. So we've got that password. It's told me that I need to change it. It's temporarily. And then I can go ahead and say, what's the best practice? It's not something that a process, but what it's going to do is go out to the knowledge base now and ask and find the article that's relevant for that. So it's gone out and said every 90 days our password should be changed, name, date of birth, and things to avoid in there as well. So we've got that knowledge trigger out to it as well in there. Appreciate we're running to time, so I'll just flip back to the slide deck. But you can also, well, before I do actually, I'll just restart this and just show you the language flip. I'll go with French. So it's given me in English because that's the language we've set it out to. Now we're in French. And now to say German, and my high school German and French aren't very good, but it can translate back into that sort of native language to help people go through. So I'll just flip back to the slides there now, just for great. But hopefully that's given you a good flavour for how it can be built. And again, we are available to help. We do this regular, so we are going in, helping build and design it as well. But I'll let Craig continue on.
Thanks, Jared. So yeah, just kind of some recap points on here. So start by baselining where you're at in terms of your metrics and be clear on what you're trying to achieve. Be very specific in your configuration description. So it absolutely does change the behavior. As you could see from some of the guidelines and the guardrails that Jared had put into his prompts.
Yeah, what I'd recommend there is test slowly. So build it. You've got the little test box that we saw the conversation happening in the side. Test, do a line, test how that behaves, move along and get confidence in it and understand how it behaves in the different situations.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big difference between agentic journey design versus traditional bot design. In the bots, you kind of had to build every path and configure it. In this, we're spending less time building it, but more time testing it. So yeah, test that and iterate and adjust your prompts. Monitor it ongoing. So check your metrics, check the answers that are being presented, check how many people are using it and what the spend is versus the benefit. And then kind of linked to that is this isn't a fire and forget thing. Most AI capabilities require some degree of ownership and iteration and improvement and optimization. And obviously we would say work with a partner, because when you work with a partner, you've got access to a bit of the extra mileage that they've done in delivering some of these projects, because some of this is quite new still, and a lot of organizations don't always have that in-house. And then just to kind of finish up, it nicely brings me onto our next slide, which is our IPI customer success team. So IPI's customer success team runs regular user forums on different areas, different topics. And so our next one is coming up in September, and it's going to be a deeper dive into this topic. So any of our customers, if you want to register for this, and we'll follow up with the link for you to be able to do that.